Why do you always seem to land those crappy jobs? Well, if you're easily triggered, you probably don't want to watch this video. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to talk to you about why you always seem to be attracting that crappy job or that crappy employer. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more career-related content just like this directly from a corporate recruiter, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You might also want to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future posts. All right, so this stands to be one of the more triggering videos I've ever made on this channel. And this comes out of years of observation in my own career and talking to thousands of people as a corporate recruiter and hundreds of people as a career coach as we try to work through their career-related dilemmas. And one of the more common things that gets brought up is people who have a repeating pattern of finding low-quality employer after low-quality employer, and they seem to be in a vicious cycle. And sometimes the truth can hurt. And I know that there's going to be people raging and seething about all these triggering things that I'm going to talk about. But I would say before you hit that dislike button, I want you to think long and hard about why you might be triggered by some of the things that I'm going to talk about in this video. And that's really meant for you to do some self-reflection and try to determine what things are you doing to attract those opportunities to you. Because I am a firm believer in whatever we put out into the universe, we end up getting back. So if you bring negativity with you into the job search or into your career, you're generally going to get that mirrored back to you. There are some terrible quality employers, and I talk about on my channel quite a bit. There's also some terrible quality bosses that you might work for. I also talk about that in my channel. However, not all bosses and not all employers are bad. So it's all about manifesting the type of career that you want to experience yourself. And to do that, you have to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Ooh, I can just sense the rage building in some of you as you get ready to leave me a nasty comment. So I'm talking to you folks. I still love you. I'm just trying to help. Now, the first reason is not necessarily your fault. It is a little bit of bad luck, and it's also a little bit of bad planning, and it's being too inexperienced. And this is especially true in the beginning part of your career. If you're too inexperienced, you're not going to know how to identify what opportunities are bad for you. And if you're truly entry level, getting that first job in industry is typically the hardest one to get. And so some people make a desperation move in order to just get some experience on their resume. And I totally get that. In a lot of cases, I'll actually recommend that you do that. However, you have to be really careful when you take a low quality offer just to get experience, because it could potentially set you off on a negative career path if you're not super careful. And a lot of times this is the genesis for why one bad job leads to the next and leads to the next. Becomes a snowballing effect. So if you take that low quality job, make sure that you have a clear exit strategy. Once you get the exact amount of experience that you need to qualify for the next job, you have to be in an active job search and you have to know exactly what you're doing in order to get out of that bad employer. And the next reason why people tend to find themselves in crappy job after crappy job is that they're underskilled. And so look around your current industry, look at job postings and see how do you stack up to the competition. Because if you don't stack up well to the competition, or you're just very average, then you're probably going to find yourself attracting very average opportunities. So the moral of the story here is to acquire those skills that employers demand and are relatively rare to find. And then you'll be able to break yourself free of this vicious cycle. And once you learn those skills and you have some experience to back it up, you can't have a crappy resume. And listen, as somebody that has looked at tens of thousands of resumes in my career, a bad resume is absolutely going to hold you back from those top level opportunities. And so if your resume isn't up to date and optimized, then you're going to be limiting yourself to the opportunities that you're going to be able to attract. So learn how to write a really good resume. The next major reason why people get stuck in crappy job after crappy job is that not only do they not have a good resume, but they don't know how to sell themselves when they do actually land an interview. And listen, you're probably taking that first interview that comes your way when you have a bad resume because, simply put, your phone isn't ringing that much and you might get a little desperate. And once you do get that first round interview, you have to know how to sell yourself. And a lot of people who end up in crappy jobs don't tend to be very good at selling themselves in interviews. Here's an unfortunate truth about interviewing. The person who lands the job isn't always the best fit on paper, but they are best at selling why they're the best possible fit for that role. Now, this next one stands to be quite triggering, and I'm not going to do you any service if I sugarcoat this stuff. It's if you're too lazy to do the things that you need to do in order to truly propel your career forward. Because let's face it, doing what is necessary in your career isn't always fun, and it takes inertia. And if you're somebody that tends to procrastinate a lot in other parts of your life, the career is probably going to be one that you also do the same. And most people don't invest in themselves in their career. So if you're somebody that has tended to procrastinate on updating your resume or actively doing a job search or potentially going back to school and getting the skills that you know you need, That's stuff that you own. If you're not willing to do the work necessary in your own career, how can you expect anybody else to do it for you? Playing right in line to that, and I realize this one is going to be as triggering as the last one, is that you have a self-limiting mindset. In other words, you have a crappy attitude. If you're somebody that thinks that all employers suck, if you're somebody that thinks that all bosses suck, if you're somebody that thinks that all recruiters suck, or guys on the internet trying to tell you how to land your dream job suck, then you probably have a self-limiting mindset. You have to realize that not all employers are crappy and there are good opportunities out there, but you have to be willing to do the work to get them. And if you're somebody that's raging right now and you're writing me a seething comment about how wrong I am, my suggestion to you would be, if you really feel that way, go off and start your own business, because that's likely the only opportunity that you're going to find that you're going to be truly satisfied with. Now, the next reason why some people always seem to end up in crappy job after crappy job is kind of related to the last topic, and it is that you're always making excuses. The commute is too far, the company is too big, the company is too small, the company's a startup, can't work those hours, won't work those hours, can't make that commute, won't work in the office, won't work from home, don't have enough time, I'm too tired, don't want to do the extra work, can't go back to school, it costs too much money. I think you get the point. If you're somebody that tends to make excuses about why you can't achieve something that other people have, then you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror and you need to determine why it is that you're not willing to invest in yourself. The next major reason why people tend to be stuck in crappy jobs is that they become complacent. In other words, you stayed in the job or a bad company for too long. And I made another video that I think you should check out, and it's called Why a Steady Job is Bad for Your Career. Essentially, staying in a bad employer for the sake of a steady paycheck is very detrimental to your career growth because you become complacent, and that steady paycheck that they dangle in front of you is essentially like a drug. And when you always know that you're going to be fed, it tends to take some of the motivation away from you in order to really spread your wings and grow your career. So don't be complacent and stay in a crappy job for too long because it will hurt you in the long run. Another common reason why people tend to attract crappy job after crappy job is that they've made some mistakes. At some point in their career, they may have gotten onto this carousel and it's hard to get off, or you may have been unfortunate enough to join an employer that had a particularly bad reputation and you can't seem to get away from it. Or you may have been pigeonholed into a certain type of work that now brands you as something that's not as desirable as you would like. Now, the final common reason that I see for people having crappy job after crappy job is that the geographic region that you live in tends to be very limited. And this is especially true if you live in a very rural area where there's a limited number of employers. Because there are certain places that I've been even in my career where I look around and there's probably only 3 or 4 major employers, and the same people jump from job to job to job, and pretty soon you've run out of all good options. And if there's not a good employer in your local market, then there's not much you can do. In that case, you either need to find a job that you can work remotely, or you might have to relocate to a more populous area that has more options. And now I know the contents of this video can be very triggering to some folks who are not wanting to hear what I have to say because they're defensive, they put up a wall. And all I'll say to that is that the reason why I make this video is to try to help you to understand what mistakes you potentially could be making so that you could adjust and pivot so that you can escape this vicious cycle. Because if you don't address the root of your problem, you're probably going to continue to repeat that over and over again. And that's one of the most common things that I talk about with my clients in one-on-one coaching sessions. Now, if you're somebody that's listening to this and you're thinking that you're hearing yourself in some of the things that I talked about and you're feeling a little discouraged, I actually do offer some private one-on-one coaching sessions that we can dissect where you went wrong and how to potentially get out of it. And you can reach me through my website for that. But I also encourage you, go through my YouTube channel. I leave a lot of great content on there to help you unstick yourself and get out of this vicious cycle. But if you need more help, I also do have a website called alifeafterlayoff.com, and I share a lot of my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses. The first one is addressed in this video as well. It's how to write that resume. So if you can figure out how to write a resume that is going to give you the best chance of getting noticed by that premium company with that great opportunity, then you're going to set yourself apart from the crowd. I created a training for that. It's called Resume Rocketfuel, and it's going to teach you from a recruiter's perspective how to build your resume so that you're going to get the best chance of somebody like me noticing you and then pulling you into that first round interview. Once you get into that first round interview, though, it then switches over to you being able to sell yourself. And that's where the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp comes in. It basically takes you step by step through each round of the interview process, gives you some best practices on how to approach each one, and then ultimately how to land that offer. So check this out if you're struggling and you want to get out of this vicious cycle. So admittedly, I did hem and haw for quite a long time about whether or not I wanted to bring this content out. But at the end of the day, I felt like it was valuable enough And some people do need to hear this, even if it's uncomfortable. Just know that I'm doing it because I'm trying to unlock the secrets of hiring for you and give you a better shot at a better career. So best of luck with your job search. And like always, we'll see you on the next one.